You're in for a treat this morning. Come on, give it up for Vince Clausen. Yeah.
He loves that, doesn't he? He just loves it. Gregory said something at the beginning. He's like, I look around the world and I just see a world that could be better. That relationships could be better. People interacting could be better. This could be better. And I've been obsessed over this the last couple of weeks. Like, how do we take our world from this kind of sectarian, people against people? It just seems like everywhere I go, someone's like, oh, I'm this, not that, and I'm against those people, and these people are, I hear a news story, this group hates this group. The number of relationships that have been falling apart lately. I understand they need to end sometimes, but like, where's the peace? Jeff talks about spirituality, people craving spirituality. I think of spirituality as the force more powerful enough to inspire us to create peace. And I don't know about you, but I want to be a peacemaker. Maybe it's because I'm not a peacemaker that I'm so obsessed with this. But we've all had those moments where, the world around us is happening, and also we realize, oh, I'm the thing that's causing the problem. Oh, crap. Jesus has this line, blessed are the peacemakers. Can I get a hell yeah on that one? Like, you see those people walk into a room and all of a sudden they can just navigate it. They're not making it go away, they're just navigating it. And all of a sudden you come out the other side and you're going, well, that was beautiful. So I've been obsessed by this the last couple of weeks. We looked at this, the first one that Jesus talks about. Peacemakers are people who own their crap. They don't blame. It's not like, you triggered me, you made me angry. It's like, no, I have not been doing my work, and now I'm oversensitive. Instead of being like, no, you did that. No, that was me. You made me, no. Ruthlessly owning our crap. None of this. Jesus says, look at the log in your own eye, not the speck in theirs. They have a speck, don't worry. But over the next 100 years, as you figure out your log, maybe then you've earned the right to speak to their speck. Second piece of the puzzle. This is the one I find hard. Seeing the good in everyone. Seeing those people who you just drive you nuts and you're like, oh, that pizza. No. There's still a good human underneath those bad actions. Anyone else? Actually, don't put up your hand because that's a tough one, isn't it? Even this week, me and my wife have been talking about this. I'm like, oh, I didn't see the good in them, but I hate them so much. Peacemakers can see a human underneath almost anything. Ninja. Today I want to talk about one more peacemaking skill. I was going to give a shout out. Hey, Marco, can you turn down my mic just a hair? Thanks. So I'm 16 years old. I have big curly hair. I just got my driver's license. And my dad does something that is like a peacemaking skill level beyond anything I'd seen to this point. It so impacted me that it's still the model I use to interact with my world. You see, I'm this punk kid, and I'm dating this girl named Becky Dirksen. Good Mennonite girl. Tall, blonde. So we called because we don't have cell phones. So I called on her landline and got her through her parents, and we arranged a date. I was like, okay, I'll come pick you up. So I borrow my parents' red station wagon. Mom, Dad, can I borrow your station wagon? Well, what do you want to do, son? I have a date. Okay. So I'm like all excited, I'm like get all dressed up. I don't even remember what it was for, but I jump in the car, I'll grab the keys off the rack. We had this attached garage, so house, garage. Jump into the garage, Fire up the car. I'm just like, this is going to be such a great date. Fire it up, slam it, put it into reverse, hit the gas. Bam! I forgot to open the garage door. As I'm sitting there just like, I look over and I see the garage door open and my dad's face comes out the door just like, what in the bloody... There's very few things you need to know to live. One of them is when you've really pissed off your parent. You know that level where you're like, ooh, I better turn it down now because I'm about to die. My dad looked at me like, you have officially crossed the line. As the back of the car is through the garage, the hitch is on the outside of the garage while the door is closed. And I'm sitting there like this. You know, it's his one evening off. He's going to go watch his hockey game, right? He's expanding, thinking this is going to be a great evening. Now this. And this is where the story shifts. He says, okay, son, put it into drive. We got to get it out from, it's sticking through the garage door. So, as I'm driving forward, I hear just tearing and, things breaking apart in the garage door, and I'm like, oh. He goes and looks at it. He looks at me, looks at it, kind of takes one of the pieces, cracks it back, gets a board, screws it on, hits the garage door. There's a hole in it. But, kind of this rickety thing opens up. And then he says something that will forever change me. He says, okay, son, have a good date. See you later. Sorry, what did you just say, Dad? Have a good day, son. You do remember that I just drove through the garage door, right? Yeah? And you still want me to take the car on the date, right? Yeah? I had pictured myself being grounded for about 3 years. I was going to call Becky and say, it was nice knowing you. I'll never see you again. I probably won't see sunlight again, which isn't too bad for me. I'm a vampire after all. All you tanned people, I hate you. How in the bloody hell did my dad go from pure anger to that? That's what I want to know. Because that's what I want to be able to do. Or let me say it this way. That's what I'm currently not doing. But I have this model in my head of my dad transcending a moment and being like this ninja level peacemaker. Literally, that transformed my relationship with my dad. He, pardon my French, but crapped the bed many times after that. And I'd still go back to that moment. I'm going, okay, but he did that. How do we do that? How in your life, when someone does just the stupidest thing, the most hurtful thing, the most painful thing, you handle it like that? That you take a moment of disconnection, of pain and suffering, and you create insane peace that now inspires people for decades after. Anyone feel like, yeah, I'd like to know that? Now, sometimes I try and get you guys to put up your hands, and I don't want you to vote because it's embarrassing. But today I'm actually going to get you guys to vote on something. So I'm going to get them to put up a thing. It's called a Menti. So pull out your phone, go on to, this is completely anonymous. I do not know how you vote. I can't look this up. So just go to menti.com, type in the number on the top of the screen while I talk. You see, the way I see it, this could have gone a couple different ways. I've now put the car through the garage door. My dad comes out, he is furious. Now, he handled it ninja style. This is always funny when I put something on the screen, you guys are not paying attention at all. I could be up here doing like a hoedown and you guys would be like, I got nothing. My dad could have absolutely gone kind of one of two ditches. He could have suppressed it and repressed it. Now, I will say this. My dad didn't suppress his anger. He was angry. As a kid, you need to know that. You need to know when your parents are that angry. My dad didn't suppress his anger. He did take the opportunity to comment every time for the next 2 years. Every time I borrowed the car, he'd say, remember to open the garage door, son. And then he'd laugh. I didn't think it was that funny. Okay, how are we doing? This is live. If you're online, you can do this one too. Oh, we have a whole lot of suppression going on, huh? I love the peacemaking ninjas. Those people, I think you should put up your hand and be like, that is me. I would have nailed it. But doesn't it seem like suppressing your anger is kind of the right move? Right? Like, if I get angry, this is going to go badly. So I just need to take it and do one of these. There's a story in our tradition about two people called Cain and Abel, brothers. And the story goes that Cain and Abel have this ritual connected to their conception of God. And whoever their conception of God likes through this ritual, their life goes better. Cain brings his thing to the ritual. His brother Abel brings his thing to the ritual. Their conception of God says to Abel, love it. Nailed it. And then he looks at Cain and he's like, what's that? Now, I don't know exactly how it goes down, but my reading of the story says this. First, Cain gets furious. It's all over his face. And then he does one of these. Oh, I'm fine. I'm not upset. I'm okay. And his conception of God comes in and says, hey, Cain, how you doing there, buddy? I'm fine. And the character God in the story says, that anger is like a wild animal inside of you. If you don't deal with it, it's going to come out and destroy everything. We don't know how long later, but a little while later, Cain says to his brother, and he must have been good at suppressing his anger. So he says to his brother, hey, let's go hang out in the field. His brother's like, yeah, let's do that. They go out in the field, and it says that wild animal came out of Cain, and Cain killed his brother, like horror movie style. There's many morals to that story. But one of the morals is this: beware anger suppressed. It turns into resentments. It turns into all kinds of stuff. And when it comes out ugly. The things it will do and the consequences you will have to deal with are long and painful. Our tradition has another line. It says this: don't let the sun go down on your anger. Now, I almost never read the Bible in terms of what does this mean for our conception of God. What I read it more often is, what does this say about me? What happens when I don't deal with my anger? Can you guys feel it when you shove it down? It's like, sometimes you can ignore it. Other times you can just feel it right there. Something happens and your response is a bit like, a little sharp. My wife says something and I'm like, resentments that are left for a long time fester and grow. Our tradition says, do not let them turn into resentments. This isn't if you don't deal with your anger in a day, some conception of God's going to be angry at you. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is, a truth that says, if you don't deal with your anger, if you suppress it, it's not a great thing. Don't hold it in. Don't suppress it. Deal with it. Now, it's much easier if it's a person, you're connected with. You're like, hey, babe, that really made me angry. She's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, that was my bad. Or, yeah, hey, I just didn't handle that one well. Or sometimes it's, can we talk about that? Because I think maybe you were the one who instigated this one. Because usually it is. But we can address it. And it doesn't turn into resentment. It doesn't turn into long-term memory. Stan Tack can actually study this a lot. When you have a bad memory and you let it sit for a while, it turns into long-term memory. Long-term memory are very hard to undo. It's like they get stuck in there. And then our reactions are a little sharper than they need to be. And at some point, all of a sudden, everything blows. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Deal with it. Now, if you're like, yeah, Clausen, that's nice. Thanks, good tip. Been doing it my whole life. How exactly am I supposed to unring that bell? This is why we have professionals. Psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors. Go to one. If you're in a relationship where something has happened a long time ago and it's still stuck between you, go to a counselor. They will help you figure out how to process through this. Even more so, if your hurt was from somebody who doesn't want to do the work with you, your counselor can be a proxy and help you process through that resentment. If the hurt happened when you were young, and for a lot of us it did, that stuff gets stuck really deep. Go to a counselor. They will help you start to deal with it. A lot of the things that are happening, a lot of the wars we're creating is these resentments, this stuff that's not dealt with, coming up at the weirdest times, and all of a sudden you're going, whoa, why am I so upset? Do not let the sun go down and turn things into resentments. If you struggle, send me an email, Vince@Friendchurch. I will help you find a counselor. If the first counselor doesn't work for you, please do not give up. We will find you another one. You got to find one you can work with. I need one who's kind of loud and yells a lot. They work better for me. The ones who think everything is inside of me and I have all the answers, I'm like, eesh. Anger. So we have suppression. So we have the ninja level. We have, on the one side, we have a whole group of suppressors over here, huh? It's like, if I just shove this down, everything will be fine. But there's another side to this thing, right? You could also go this way. Things could go ugly. Can you throw the Menti up again for me? Let me just switch the question for you. Again, completely anonymous. Go onto your phones. Because on the other side of it is anger, because anger is not a bad thing. When something happens that you want and you experience something different. So if you're like, I would like a piece of cake, and you don't get a piece of cake, you'll feel something about that. Anger is usually my go-to, but whatever. Some people feel sad. Anger is not a bad emotion. Jesus, at one point, there's a bunch of people in the church doing stuff that he thinks is like just bad. He like loses his mind on them. One translation says he gets a bunch of ropes, ties a whip, and like starts beating them. Not a great look, Jesus, but whatever. Let's let that go. He's got anger. The traditional conceptions of God through the Old Testament is nothing but anger. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Jonah story. God was angry at the city of Nineveh. Angry. Anger is not a problem. But when anger and actions are tied together, I drive a car through a garage door because I'm not paying attention because I'm a snot-nosed 16-year-old. My dad comes out. What he wants is not his car through the garage door. He does not want that. But that's what he's seeing. So he's feeling anger. Fair emotion. How many times in our lives, though, has that emotion justified bad behaviors? So I'm going to ask, what bad behaviors have you seen justified by the emotion anger? Violence, aggression, abandonment, abuse, spazzing out, I like that one. Retaliation, yeah, that's a good one. Walking away, victimizing, avoidance, bullying, stonewalling. For those of you who tend towards the other side, here's the exercise I want you to see today. There is the emotion of anger, and there is destructive behaviors. Those are two separate things. That is not the same thing. Someday, I'm going to be able to tell you guys a story where I actually succeeded. Today is not that day. Because I'm working on this message. Anger and my behavior separate, right? Me and my wife are having a conversation. She says this thing. And I can feel the moment when I'm like, this is the moment where my anger is taking over my behavior. And what did my brain do? It said, screw it, we're going for it. Raising my voice, I'm like at her, like just stupid. Now, I was angry. What she did was not what I wanted her to do. Anger. But that doesn't justify the behavior. Some people actually say, you know what, in the Christian tradition, we should be meek, so anger should be a moot point. No one should feel anger. I spent a lot of time on that verse, meek. If you really want to geek out, I actually put a link in the show notes for today. It gets into original languages, super geeky, but this is where I went. Jesus says this line just after Peacemakers, says, the meek shall inherit the earth. What do you think about when you hear meek? Quiet, little, don't say what they want. Definitely don't feel anger. Think like Simpsons, Ned Flanders. Hey, Homer, you just threw a rock through my window. That's okay, I'll fix it for you. Right? Like that's meek. Is that what we need it to be? I looked at that verse. It's actually a quote from an earlier story. The earlier story says this. Can you throw it up for me? Don't let your anger control you. That's what meek means. It's part of its semantic range. Don't let your anger control you. It only leads to war. Yep. Those who can control their actions and not let their anger control them will inherit the earth. This is what Jesus seems to be referencing. Meekness isn't about not feeling anger. It's about being able to separate my emotion of anger from bad behaviors. I have self-control. Babe, love you, but I'm angry at you. And I'm not going to behave badly. Let's be honest. If I had a kid and they just drove the car through the garage door, I would be feeling angry, and chances are I would be thinking about a punishment that would make me feel better. It would be measured in years. If we're allowed to beat kids, I'd be thinking about that. My anger is separate from my behaviors. For those of you who grew up in an environment where that was never separate, this is probably hard. Because for you, anger and bad behaviors were the same thing. And for many of us, that's what drove us to suppress the anger in the first place, because anger was dangerous. Not because of anger, but because anger justified a certain set of behaviors that we had to live in, and so anger was threatening. You saw the horrible things that would happen. Could it be that peacemakers can somehow navigate between those two ends? We don't suppress and let it go into long-term memory and turn resentments. That's just delayed explosiveness. When that thing comes out, it goes nuclear. I have some people in my life who are like this. I always say to them, hey, call me when you're about to snap. I want to come watch. Get my popcorn, because it's going to go like so epically bad. And if you're honest, for those of you who suppress, you know this. You know that it's going to come out at some point, and it's going to be ugly. That's the one ditch. The other ditch is, I'm angry, therefore I get to behave however the hell I want. I will destroy you, violence, I will bully you, I will passive aggressive you, I will shame you, I will do whatever the hell I want because I'm angry. That's the other ditch. Anger's not the problem. It's the justification to behaviors that's the problem. Be meek. Be in self-control. Vince, be in self-control. Your anger does not justify behaviors. Somehow my dad lined that sucker up dead center. He could have gone resentment, right? That little wretch, that's the last time he gets that car. Oh, I'll let you go this time, but you'll be paying for this forever. He could, come on. He could have been very justified in throwing my ass out of that car and being like, kid, you are done. Done. I'm a snot-nosed 16-year-old who thinks he knows everything. Instead, my dad found a way down the middle that said, oh yeah, I'm angry. I didn't want this to happen today. But that doesn't justify bad behavior. Instead, I'm going to look at my kid and go, okay, what's going to create peace in this moment? And he nailed it. So let me ask, what ditch? You know when your car pulls to one corner? Which way does your car go? Is it this side? You had all kinds of stuff down in there. Or do you like the rage? Oh, if I can feel my anger, I can let it out big. Then I feel better. Meanwhile, the world around us is going like this. I think the skill of peacemaking is somehow finding the middle ground between those two. If the resentment's your problems, especially if they go back to your childhood, please get a professional to help you. It is incredibly hard to get those untethered out of our long-term memories. And they will mess up things everywhere. And if somehow you grew up with this idea that says, my anger can justify, and therefore, and you find yourself apologizing for bad behavior, there's a bunch of work you need to do to calm yourself down. First, you need to be aware. Oh, I just behaved poorly. No, I wasn't angry. That's separate over here. I behaved poorly. I raised my voice. I used absolute language. You never, you always. I hit somebody. Own that first. Not as the same, as separate. I behaved badly. Not I was angry. I behaved badly. And start to watch. Sometimes it'll take you 3 weeks till you finally realize, oh shit. That was bad behavior back there. And then start the process of separating those. You start, again, Enneagram is one of these personality tests. My Enneagram tendencies, my bad behaviors, we tend to be a bit spicy. It says to me often, don't try and change it yet, just watch. watch and put a flag on it. Oh, I behaved badly. If you can't separate them out, get help. Come talk to me. I'll hook you up. Once we can separate those out, we can feel our anger. Anger is beautiful in the sense that it calls out bad things. Someone transgressed your boundaries. That makes me angry. That's healthy. I have an agreement with someone. They broke it. That makes me angry. That's healthy. Someone is not letting me be who I am. That makes me angry. That's healthy. We should feel anger in those moments. If you can't feel it for yourself, feel it for someone else. Somebody is being mistreated. That makes me angry. Yes, we don't want that to happen. It should make me feel angry. And yet we still have choice. I can choose how I respond. I don't blow up. I don't get scared and shove it down. I deal with it in the moment. And if you can do that, sometimes you can pull a Jake. That's my dad's name. You can pull a Jake and you make a moment of such profound peace that your kid will be preaching about it 30 years later. Pops, I think you're listening to this one. Thanks, brother. May we be profound peacemakers. Amen. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.